Hi there, so we're quickly going to look at completing the square. All right, this is a very ancient technique for finding the max, the min, and the roots. Now, obviously, it's been bypassed by using the minus b formula in calculus, but it's still a nice little trick to kind of know. So, I'm going to show you how to use it in different ways. I suppose that's the best way to think about it. So, I'm going to show you a sum. Two sums, actually. We start with a simple one. X squared plus 4x minus 6. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I would complete the square in order to find the max or min of this quadratic. Well, I already know it's going to look, sketch-wise, it's going to look like U-shaped. So we're looking for a minimum point, really, on this. Okay, so let's have a look and see how I would do it. So this is the first thing I do. I write down the x squared and the 4x. And then I add a big empty box that I'm going to fill with something. And then I take away an empty box that's going to also be filled with the exact same thing. And then whatever's left over, in this case, the minus 6. Now, what do you fill inside the box? That is the question. You take the coefficient of x, positive or negative, doesn't matter. You just take the whole thing. So in this case, I'm taking a plus 4. If that was a minus 4, I'd take a minus 4. And I put it over the number 2. In a fraction. I wrap it in brackets and then I square it, and I repeat the same thing in the next one. And then I get my calculator out because I don't trust myself, and I'm going to get bracket fraction 4 over 2 close bracket squared, and it gives me 4. So this is going to be my next line now. X squared plus 4x plus 4 minus 4 minus 6. Now, you stop right there, and then you take a different colored marker or pencil or whatever you've got, and you put it around those first 3 terms, and then you also separately put it around those 2 terms, because if you don't, you will be tempted to add those 3 things together, and that's a no. So what have you done? What you have done is generated the root of x squared, the root of 4, and check the sign in the middle. If it's positive, you put a positive here. If it's negative, you put a negative here. It's positive. That is those 3 things. And then you just add them. And this has completed the square. So to show you what I've actually done here, let's have a look. If I take this and change it, and I just take this as it is, that is the minimum point of that function. So that's very important. You just change whatever sign is inside, but you leave whatever sign is outside. Okay? That's how you do it. Now, how can I use this to find the roots? Well, let's take it in this form. Bring the 10 over. Square root both sides. Now, there could be a plus or minus there. You don't know. So just build in the plus or minus. Okay? And there's your 2 possible answers. Now, if you don't believe me, and there's no reason why, I'm going to do the minus b just to show you. Okay? A is 1, b is 4, c is minus 3. So that's minus 4 plus or minus the square root 4 squared minus 4 times 1 by minus 6 all over 2 times 1. There's one of the answers. There's the other answer. Okay, so it's a nice, neat little trick if you don't have a calculator to find, especially weird roots. You know, it's a nice way of doing it. Okay, now personally, I'd still just use the minus b, saves all that hassle. But let's say you have it in that form. It's very hard to use the minus b in that form because you'd have to convert that back into that before you could do it. So it's actually easier just to use that. So that's how you can get that. I'm going to show you on a little bit of a harder one. So in this case, the problem arises that we have a coefficient on the x squared. So here's the trick when there's a coefficient. Take the 4 outside of a big bracket and then divide everything by 4. Okay? And then keep that going right down to the end. So I'm just going to treat this like I did the previous one. So how would I do that? X squared plus a quarter x plus empty box minus empty box plus 3/4. So that's going to be, fill the box with, and this is, be careful here, coefficient over 2 squared over 2 squared, not divided by 2, over 2. So fractions are our friends here. So watch, there's a fraction on the top there, 1 over 4 over 2 squared, okay? 1 over 64. So that's now x squared plus a quarter x plus 1 over 64 minus 1 over 64 plus 3/4. Now remember what you do next. These three things, take the square root of that, take the square root of that, and if that's plus, and then add those. (47 over 64). And you're thinking to yourself, oh, that looks horrible. Now we're going to apply the 4 back in. I'm going to multiply the 4 into this and leave it like that. Don't multiply it in, just leave it hanging on the outside, but I am going to multiply it by that. Now, the minimum, the point here, max or min, it's going to be take this number and change it and leave this number. Okay, and that's going to be the minimum point of that. Okay,